Hello, and welcome to How Spotify is Killing the Music Industry. So, I'm going to begin this speech by asking you to think about how many of you use Spotify and or other streaming platforms like Apple Music, Amazon Music, Pandora, SoundCloud. I'm sure the answer is literally all of you. Personally, I love streaming platforms. They are great. They are convenient and they allow me to listen to an artist's entire discography in merely seconds, as opposed to buying digital copies such as CDs or records. However, I am also an artist on Spotify and I have experienced firsthand the small payouts. And this is an issue for artists. And we are going to discuss exactly why. So, to give you a little preview about what we are talking about, we are first going to present the statistics behind Spotify's payouts, what we can do about it, how we can change the different payouts that you receive as an artist, and how this will affect the future of the music industry. So, first, we need to discuss the statistics. What actually is the problem? According to soundcamps.com, they, meaning Spotify, pay roughly 4 cents per 10 streams. And this result may be lower based on certain factors, such as somebody only listening to a third or half of your song, or just the different revenue pool that Spotify receives that year. Now, this means that Spotify pays around half a cent per stream. And if you look at this next graph by Digital Music News, you can see that there are tons of better platforms, and Spotify is almost last place when it comes to paying artists well for their music, for their art. Only being better than 3 platforms: Amazon, Pandora, and YouTube. Now, you may be asking why I am targeting Spotify specifically. I mean, look at YouTube Music. It's even less than half a cent. The reason I am targeting Spotify is because of this. This is the music streaming industry market share. So this is what consumers use what platforms. And as you can see, Spotify has 30% of the market share. 30% of people use Spotify as their streaming platform. Now, this means that Spotify is the biggest by far, and they are paying next to the least. So, on top of this, according to Spotify themselves, starting in April of 2024, tracks must have reached a threshold of at least 1,000 streams in the previous 12 months to be included in the recorded music royalty pool calculation. This is also a problem because Music Business Worldwide reads that only 19% of artists on Spotify have 1,000 monthly listeners in 2023, which means that 81% of artists on Spotify have fewer than 1,000 monthly listeners. Now, what does all this mean? All this means that artists are only benefiting if they are at the top. The top pool of artists are making a majority of the money, while independent artists or artists that are just starting are getting paid nothing when it matters most. So, the question we are now looking at is what we can actually do about it. Artists need to be paid fairly for their hard-earned work. First, what we can do is we can pressurize Spotify, and we can do this by shifting support towards competitors and promoting awareness. So by giving money and our support to maybe streaming services that have a better revenue pool, it will encourage Spotify to up its game and give more money to smaller artists and just artists in general. Now, how will this affect the music industry? Well, when artists are paid more, there is more creative freedom for artists because the industry will be less saturated. Now, what I mean by that is if artists are always focusing on what makes the most money, everything relating to music will start sounding the same because everybody will be focused on creating that next radio hit. And if the same things are popular and making money, then it will completely eliminate the possibility for experimental music and indie artists as a whole. And with fair compensation, there will be more support for smaller artists, artists that are just starting, that are just perfect and make great music and perfect for the future of the industry will be allowed to continue and grow. In conclusion, what we talked about is how Spotify pays its artists and why this is a problem. Then we moved on to what we can do about it by supporting different streaming platforms that support artists better. And lastly, we discussed how fair payouts will affect the music industry. Thank you so much, and here is my works cited.